Okay, I'm going to present to you the topic regarding Mexican immigrants in the United States. And before I'll present the thesis statement, I'll just go through some statistics and facts regarding Mexican immigrants, and then I'll present the thesis statement, which is why do Mexican Americans still suffer from discrimination today. Um, and yes, first of all, how many live in the U.S.? Mexican immigrants has immigrated to the U.S. for a very long time now, and if we look at this model or statistic, we can tell that the amount of Mexican immigrants increases uh, pretty much from every decade, from the 1980s to the 1990s, and from the 90s to the 20th century. All the way until 2006, where the amount suddenly drops because between here there are 2 millions, then it increases to 5 millions, 2 millions again, and here it's only 200,000. And from 2000 to 2010, 2006 to 2010, the amount of Mexican immigrants to the US drops very much, and more immigrants actually who already lives in the United States, they return home. And this phenomena that more Mexican immigrants return home to Mexico than traveling from Mexico and into the US, it continues from 2010 and actually all the way to 2015. And since like forever, Mexico has actually been the top sending country for foreign born immigrants to the US, but in 2013, China actually passes Mexico on this scale. And today, the total immigrant population in the US is approximately 41,717,000, and about 11.5 million of these are Mexicans. Yes, where do most members live? And by looking at this first picture here to my left, we can see that some states are marked in a more heavily blue than the other states, and the darker the blue on the map, the more Mexican immigrants live in these states. And by reading this map, we can see that the three top destinations for Mexican immigrants is California and Texas and Illinois. This next picture to the right shows almost the same map as the first one, but this one highlights the top cities for Mexican immigrants. And the top cities are Los Angeles in California, and Houston and Dallas in Texas, and Chicago over in Illinois. And these four cities actually make up as much as 31% of Mexican immigrants in the United States. Yes, there is no doubt that Mexican immigrants in the US make a lot less money on the average than immigrants from any other parts of the world living in the US. This is according to research based on the US Census Bureau. Nearly 7 million Mexican immigrants who work in the US, they make on average 17% less than immigrants from Central America. And the figure showing this research includes every immigrant, regardless of their legal status or not. Mexican Americans make 40% less than African immigrants, and they make more than 2.5 times less than Canadian immigrants. These numbers are according to a study of BBVA, the International Bank. And even among immigrants with professional or postgraduate degrees, Mexicans make less than any other educated African. Mexican, they make less than all other groups, and this is around $35,000 a year. And in comparison, highly educated African immigrants, they make closer to $45,000 a year, and Europeans make a lot more than $600,000 a year on average, and Mexican Americans only make $35,000 on average a year. And how many of these Mexican American immigrants does actually speak English? Well, according to most recent data of the total 41.7 million immigrants in the United States in 2015, about half of them 20.4 million, spoke English less than very well. Among the major Hispanic origin groups like Puerto Ricans and South Americans, they are most likely to say that they are proficient in English, but Mexicans are the least likely to say so. And nearly 3/4 of Mexican immigrants, which is about 71%, says that they speak English just a little or not at all. And according to this information, we can almost conclude, considering the high percent of Mexicans who don't speak or almost don't speak English, that most Mexican immigrants only use English as their native tongue or maybe as their second language. And on the picture here, we can see that Mexican immigrants of first generation, well, 23% of them speak English very well. But this is a very, very small amount of them. And it really increases a lot for second generation and third and higher generations of Mexican immigrants. So now we've looked a bit at income, where they live, how many they are, and if they speak English or not. And we can see that already by looking at the income, that Mexican immigrants are discriminated because they earn a lot less than other groups of immigrants and other Americans. And one of the reasons that they don't get into but historically and legally, Mexicans have been treated as second-class citizens in the United States within a few short decades after their conquest in the mid-19th century. Mexican Americans, although officially granted United States citizenships with full rights, lost a lot of their property and status and were relegated to low status positions such as laborers. And since then, Mexican immigrants has continued to be predominantly low status. Throughout the 20th century, Mexicans with low levels of education and from poor backgrounds immigrated to the United States to fill the lowest jobs. This had its peaks during the Mexican Revolution, during the agriculture guest worker program for Mexicans, and post the Immigration Act of 1965, which liberalized immigration from the Americas. Most of American immigration has been to the southwestern United States, although Mexicans have begun to settle in nearly all regions of the United States since about the end of the 1900th century. And this continuous immigration throughout the 20th century has meant that the Mexican origin population in the United States includes persons born in the United States varying in generational status from first to fourth and even fifth generation. And these later generations have continued to face educational and economic disadvantages. So it doesn't get any better, actually. Unfair and discriminatory treatment against Mexican Americans has extended beyond the economic realm. School segregations has been extensive. both historically and in contemporary periods. Throughout history, Mexican children were sent to separate and inferior. School segregation was repeatedly challenged in the courts, and while they were treated as non-white by whites, challenges to segregation were won by employing the racial designation of white under the law, meaning that Mexicans as whites could not be segregated from other whites. Courts did allow the segregation of Mexicans due to language or migrant status. Eventually, Mexicans moved from being considered white to brown, probably due to both legal and social changes, although it's difficult to tell which of these that occurred the first. Persuasive anti-immigrant sentiment and treatment has also worked against all Mexicans, whether immigrant or born in the United States. Viewed as alien and low status, Mexican immigrants were, and continue to be, scapegoated and targeted for mistreatment, even though immigrants were a minority of all Mexican Americans up to the 1980s. The perception of all Mexican Americans as low status immigrants has been persuasive. So we must think of paths to reduce inequality between workers with different ethnicities, which will allow fulfilled economic integration for immigrants. The receptor state must outline a series of concrete actions to protect the immigrants' labor rights, and they must permanently regulate the sectors of economy where immigrants participate the most, such as domestic housekeeping in the case of women. Lines of communication must be established between different actors in the labor market so that salary discrimination and occupational segregation can be properly combated. Another concrete action could be to develop policies that guarantee equal employment opportunity between immigrants and natives, and between white people and other races. On the other hand, the development of these actions would require a deconstruction of the imaginary symbols that the receptive society holds on to, like gender, nationality, and skin color. In return, health service, education, and dignified living conditions could be upheld. Furthermore, programs to ease learning English and recognizing the immigrants' technical and professional titles would increase assimilation within the labor market. This multiplies a larger effort requiring bilateral agreements between the receptor and the expulsing country. These agreements will open the path to equality in the labor market, but the true effects will only come through when they become the base of a resolution dictated by international organisms. The sources I have used to this task is here: websites, articles listed chronological. Yes, and for pictures of statistics listed chronological from top to bottom in the presentations are these.